Right, President Trump, on his rollback week, said on Friday that next week he would close the southern border, or at least large sections of it, if Mexico doesn't halt illegal immigration into the United States, which is repeating a threat he has made before, but never with a specific timetable. And in a series of tweets on Friday, and also later during appearances before reporters, Trump did not spell out exactly what a border closing would entail, but said it would involve halting all trade between the two countries. Cue a raft of people complaining that we're going to run out of avocados and tomatoes, really. A prospect that would have profound ramifications for the US economy, according to the fearmongers. But Trump has blamed Mexico for a growing flow of illegals entering the United States and cited two large migrant caravans making their way towards the US border currently. And if they don't stop them, we're closing the border. We will close it, and we'll keep it closed for a long time. I'm not playing games. Mexico has to stop it. Now, booking intense opposition from abortion rights groups, citizens and also doctors, the Georgia House this week gave final approval on Friday to a fetal heartbeat abortion ban, outlawing almost all abortions in the state. Now, the bill now goes to Republican Governor Brian Kemp, who supports it. And the ultimate goal, like that of several GOP-controlled states moving to enact the strict abortion bans, is to get a case in front of the US Supreme Court to challenge its 1973 Roe v. Wade ruling that legalized abortions nationwide. Women in Georgia can currently seek an abortion during the first 20 weeks of pregnancy, and a heartbeat can be detected in an embryo as early as 6 weeks, before many women know they are pregnant. Now, the ACLU of Georgia said they would challenge the bill and called it unconstitutional in court, and a group of women at the Georgia Capitol have protested the bill, dressed as characters from The Handmaid's Tale, which depicts a dystopian future where women are controlled by the government and forced to breed. No, press no. The activists in red cloaks and white bonnets have been almost daily present ever since the House passed the measure earlier this month, and two influential groups, the Medical Association of Georgia and the Georgia Academy of Family Physicians, sent letters to lawmakers opposing the legalization. Now, GOP lawmakers in Tennessee, Florida, South Carolina and Ohio are also pursuing similar legislation, while governors in Mississippi and Kentucky have recently signed heartbeat abortion bans. Governor in Mississippi signed a heartbeat abortion ban on March the 21st, despite a federal judge's ruling last year that struck down a less restrictive law that limited abortions in Mississippi. Kentucky's law was temporarily blocked by a federal judge shortly after the Governor Matt Bevin signed it on March the 14th in a response to a challenge by the ACLU. And a state judge found Iowa's heartbeat abortion ban to be unconstitutional in January. I got a feeling that's going to run for a bit. Norway. We're not going to talk about NATO this time, but Norway has agreed to return thousands of artefacts taken from Chile's Easter Island by renowned Norwegian explorer Thor Heyerdahl back in 1956. Interesting. And the agreement was signed by his son on behalf of Oslo's Kon-Tiki Museum and Chile's Culture Ministry in Santiago. Now, the artefacts include carved pieces and human bones from the Pacific Islands. Back in 1947, Heyerdahl became famous for skipping a tiny balsa wood raft, the Kon-Tiki, on a 6,000 kilometre journey from Peru to Polynesia, which is where the connections of Easter Island come in. And his expedition proved, he said, that ancient cultures could have sailed to and populated the South Pacific, and later DNA tests suggest that the islands were settled by migrant populations from Southeast Asia. Of course, the Easter Island is a lot older, and those monuments that are there, they go back an awful lot more, long time prior to the arrival of the Polynesians. A senior White House official whose security clearance was denied last year because of concerns about foreign influence, private business interests and personal conduct is presidential son-in-law Jared Kushner. This show reported it last year. But the media have just caught up to it, or appeared so anyway. And according to people familiar with the documents and testimony provided to the House Oversight Committee, security clearances experts said the issues raised in Kushner's background investigation were significant. And David Chris, a senior Justice Department official, said it's a big deal. And the kind of concerns that she mentioned are very serious. And senior staff at the White House, and particularly relatives of the US President, are incredibly attractive targets for our adversaries seeking to gather intelligence or exert covert influence. That boy will get Trump hung if he continues to have him hanging around. I know he's family, which makes it difficult, but politically he's a walking time bomb. Oh, it's all coming out now. Washington has again shown that all is fair in war and business, calling for the extradition of a Chilean ex-arms dealer who sold cluster bombs to Iraq in the 1980s. And here's the kicker. Despite claims that the CIA supported and approved those deals. Oops. So you've got an agency who makes deals to a country we are at war in. And yet, where's the media on this? Now, before being inducted into Bush's Axis of Evil, Iraq's war with neighbouring Iran made it a useful proxy to help Washington crush the nascent revolutionary government in Tehran. They were given mustard gas and all kinds of other things to attack Iran. That didn't work either. Now, to accomplish the task, Baghdad needed bombs, and the wealthy businessman Carlos Cardoin happened to have supplies in stock. And according to the former national security official Howard Tascher, part of the reason Cardoin found himself in the right place at the right time to seal the lucrative deal was that the CIA had stepped in to help the manufacture and facilitate the sale of the cluster bombs to the Iraqi government. Those bombs, some of those bombs killed our soldiers. Where's the media again? Now, this is Iraq-gate. Remember, Iran-gate. Here's why. The same people. However, as times changed and US relations with Iraq went south, then it was never north to begin with. Puppets. Weapons sold to Saddam Hussein ended up being turned on Washington during the Gulf War, at which point helping equip the now enemy regime became a criminal act. And that is how the 76-year-old Cardoin found himself in US officials' crosshairs since 1993, despite claims to his innocence and possible the possible role of the CIA itself played in helping him make his fortune. This is what happens with Langley. It's happened many, many times. They did it in Kuwait. They did it in Iraq. They funded the Taliban in Afghanistan and then decided to turn on them. Weapons of mass destruction, which the very people inside this country, which I keep calling the elephant in the room, provided. Mr. Cardoon was set up by the CIA. Happened so many times. An NGO co-funded by the now deceased George Soros was spared prosecution back in 2016 after the US urged Ukraine to drop a corruption probe targeting the group. No surprise there. Pointing to political shenanigans during the US presidential election. Now, bankrolled by the Obama administration and the Hungarian-American billionaire George Soros, the Anti-Corruption Action Centre was under investigation as part of a larger probe by Ukraine's Prosecutor General's office into the misallocation of $4.4 million in US funds to fight corruption in the Eastern European country. All the same, where's the investigation of public mainstream media investigation of this? Surprisingly missing. Too busy focusing on Mr. Trump's tax records now. And as the 2016 presidential race heated up back in the United States, the US Embassy in Kiev gave Ukraine's Prosecutor General Yuri Lutsenko a list of people whom he should not prosecute as part of the probe. Ultimately, no action was taken against the Anti-Corruption Action Centre, and Lutsenko told the paper that he believes the embassy wanted the probe nixed, cancelled, because it would have exposed the Democrats to a potential scandal during the 2016 election. Again, no investigation of that. And this is where Trump falls short. He should spit this out. It shouldn't just be this show. He should use some of the bigger hammers and not talk about rubbish on his Twitter. Hit them with hammers. A State Department official who spoke said that while the request to nix the probe was unusual, no it's not, Washington feared that ANT-AC, Anti-Corruption Action Centre, was being targeted as retribution for the group's advocacy for anti-corruption reforms in the Ukraine. ANT-AC wasn't just a benefactor of well-connected patrons. At the time, it was collaborating with FBI agents to uncover then the Trump campaign manager Paul Manafort's businesses dealings in the Ukraine. See how it all connects? Manafort later became a high-profile target of Robert Mueller into alleged Russian collusion and was sentenced to 7.5 years for tax fraud and other financial crimes. Now, Lutsenko divulged in an interview last week that he has opened an investigation into whether Ukrainian officials leaked financial records during the 2016 US presidential campaign in an effort to sway the election in favour of Hillary Clinton. Of course they did. Ukraine is ran by the clowns out of Langley too. Pure and simple. While ANT-AC may have failed to help the FBI find the Russian collusion smoking gun, the group's activities constitute yet another link between the anticlimactic Russiagate probe and Mr. Soros, who is a heavy Democratic mega donor who bet big on Hillary Clinton taking the White House in 2016, as did many others, I might add. They all thought it was stitched up, including the Rothschilds. And it failed. Now, during 2017, Soros siphoned money into a new group, the Democracy Integrity Project, oh dear me, which later partnered with Fusion GPS to now create the now infamous Steele dossier, which was a fake document that started off that whole probe. So you can see now who was really involved: the Democrats, the CIA 2 clowns in Ukraine, Clinton, and Obama with Soros, along with MI5, MI6 clowns in Britain. Because, of course, Britain is run by the Blue Dragon Group. Who's the head of the Blue Dragon? Hillary Clinton. Saudi King Salman said he absolutely rejects any steps that would undermine Syrian sovereignty over the Israel-controlled Golan Heights, after US President Donald Trump recognised the area as Israeli territory. Now, speaking at an Arab League event in Tunisia on Sunday, Salman also reiterated his support for a two-state solution for Israel and Palestine, with East Jerusalem as the capital of the Palestinian state. And his remarks came as a strong rebuff to US President Donald Trump, who signed a declaration last week officially recognising the Golan Heights as part of Israel. And the strategic area that was captured from Syria during the Six-Day War in 1967. I'd like to see Donald Trump do a declaration and declare New York as part of Israel, because clearly it is. It's clearly not part of America, that place. And has since remained under Israeli control. And in 1981, the UN Security Council unanimously voted to declare the Israel annexation of the Golan Heights illegal and demanded that Tel Aviv rescind it. And now Trump's move, not surprisingly, was praised by the Israeli government and drew fierce criticism from Syria, and blasted the annexation of its territory as null and void. Now, the issue has also caused a rift with some of the US NATO allies. French leader Emmanuel Macron said the recognition of Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights violates international law and creates tension in the region, which is exactly what the Zionists want. That's what they've always wanted. Not the Israeli people, the Zionists. US Energy Secretary Rick Perry has approved 6 secret authorizations by companies to sell nuclear power technology and assistance to Saudi Arabia, who supports the Zionists in Israel. Saudi Arabia. Now, the Trump administration, I would say, the administration, not the Trump administration, I want to make that clear later, has quietly pursued a wider deal on sharing US nuclear power technology with Saudi Arabia, which aims to build at least 2 nuclear power plants. And several countries, including the United States, South Korea and Russia, are in competition for that deal, and the winners are expected to be announced later this year by Saudi Arabia. More buttering up people for deals, no matter what the deals are involved. Arms, nuclear power, nuclear weapons, as long as you get the deal done. No. How is it okay for Saudi Arabia to have nuclear power but Iran can't? Who made the administration behind Trump or Mr. Netanyahu God? This is a fairly alarming story, and if the people don't start supporting each other, it will escalate. And this level of violence and thuggery and overreaction will lead to other types of violence. Police officers in Arizona, well, actually it wasn't police officers, it was a SWAT team, burst through an Arizona home to take a toddler who had a fever from his parents. And advocates and state legislators are questioning if a new law intended to protect families' rights is failing. These goons care not for the laws. So the child's got a fever and they send the SWAT team in. It's nothing to do with the child. This is another program of fear, designed to instill fear in the public. If you don't behave, this is what we can do. That's what it's all about. And we mustn't bow down to their fear. And we must make complaints to the Arizona State Representative and the Arizona Department of Child Safety and tell them we're not accepting this type of behaviour. That's how it stops. Ignoring it, it carries on and it escalates. And officers pointing guns forced their way into the family's home in the middle of the night. Really? Why in the middle of the night? After the Arizona Department of Child Safety called the police for a welfare check on a child who had a 100-degree plus fever and had not received vaccinations. See the plan? No vaccinations, we're going to SWAT team you. It'd be an idea to find out who participated in that SWAT raid and put their names and faces up on all the social media. Name and shame them. I don't care if they're following orders. There's times when discretion is best used, is it not? Now, the parents had ignored a doctor's recommendation to take the 2-year-old to a hospital, saying their son's fever had decreased. They're the parents, they know better. Doctors know jack. They're just pill pushers, truth be known. And the Republican Kelly Townsend, who helped craft legislation requiring the DCS to obtain a warrant before removing a child from their parents or guardians in non-emergency circumstances, said she was outraged by the response of police and the DCS officials in this case. Well, that's what happens when you don't word. You create these laws, they'll abuse them. When have you ever needed a warrant for a child? These people are beyond stupid. It was not the intent of the law. That level of force after obtaining a warrant was to bring in a SWAT team. But you set it up. You didn't think. These people go above and beyond everything else. So if you create laws that require warrants for children who have not been vaccinated, then you're setting it up. Beyond stupid or naive to think they're not going to throw the kitchen sink at it. Townsend said the imagery is horrifying, and what has our country become if we can tear down the doorway of a family who has a child with a high fever that disagrees with their doctor? DCS officials did not respond to the Arizona Republic's questions about their policies for child welfare checks and warrants, or whether their handling of this family's case was in line with those policies. Well, the senator should force them publicly out or charge them charge them. It's as simple as that. No comment, no comment. Who do they think they are? Politicians? Townsend said she wants lawmakers to review warrant procedures that led to police using force, left the family traumatised and placed 3 children in state custody. The fact that the DCS obtained a court-approved warrant shows this wasn't an emergency that threatened the child's life or safety, so there wasn't time to file with the court, she said. Unbelievable. There's somebody else that's unbelievable. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, born in New York, born to Jewish parents. Oops. Responded on Friday to chants of AOC sucks that broke out at President Trump's rally in Michigan a day earlier, saying the president just wants another woman to vilify. There you go again, creating the divide and conquer between male and female that doesn't exist. He doesn't have another woman, Hillary Clinton or whoever else, to vilify anymore, so they need to find another woman to kind of prop up and become a lightning rod. No, Miss Cortez. And that came after, her remarks came after the president's eldest son, Donald Trump Jr., mocked a congresswoman at a rally in Grand Rapids, Michigan, stating, think about the fact that every mainstream leading Democratic contender is taking the advice of a freshman congresswoman who 3 weeks ago didn't know the 3 branches of government. Oops. A politician who doesn't know the 3 branches of government? Trump Jr. said, I don't know about you guys, but that's pretty scary. Why doesn't she know? Because she's a paid actor in a role is why. And the people will find out eventually. In 2017, there was 153.3 million Americans were employed in either full or part-time jobs, which was up 5.4% from 2008. But job growth was not uniform across all industries, however, and in many industries the number of people employed shrank considerably, with some industries shedding more than half of their workforce. Now, nearly all of the industries that lost a large share of their employees struggle to compete with advancements in technology, robotics, and America's increasing reliance on the internet and connected devices had spelt disaster for printed media. Now, the annual employment data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics from 2008 to 2017 to identify the fastest dying industries, not growing, dying, industries on this list had employment declines of 37% in the last decade. 8 industries lost over half of their workers during that time, and it was put down to automation, outsourcing. Automation is transhumanism, by the way. Outsourcing is transferring everything over to the East at the behest of and request of the Rothschilds, and changing technological landscape. And many of the industries that lost the most jobs over the past decade are expected to continue to struggle. How far have we to go? Not too sure I'm going to get too many Q&A in. A lot of things to cover this week. At least some Saudi agents involved in the grisly murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi is now being revealed were trained in America as part of Washington's broader plan to modernize Saudi intelligence. Really? Saudis again. Members of the so-called Saudi Rapid Intervention Group, which was allegedly sent to the Istanbul consulate in October of 2018 to murder the self-exiled journalist and a critic of the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who ordered the hit on him, I might add, underwent training in America as part of a program launched under the State Department license. Yeah. Who needs foreign enemies when we've got so many on our own soil? The CIA reportedly warned other government agencies that the special operations training the Saudis might have received was conducted by Tier 1 Group. For those of you involved in the RV, you'll know what Tier 1 means. Now you really know who that group is. And lo and behold, that Tier 1 group is an Arkansas-based company. Ooh, Clinton. As part of an ongoing liaison with the Saudis. Now, the hit team's alleged leader, Colonel Maya Mutreb, is specifically said to be the one who received the US training, and Mutreb reportedly served in London, no surprise, as the Deputy Chief of Station between 2002 and 2007, and was later sent to the US and elsewhere for training. You're connecting all the dots. Britain, Israel, Saudi Arabia, rogue elements within the government in America. It's all there. A federal judge this week overruled Donald Trump's plan to open large areas of the Arctic and Atlantic Oceans for oil and gas drilling. Good move. And the US District Court Judge Sharon Gleeson explained her decision to scrap the White House plans for energy dominance by saying that the president just hasn't the right to add any areas to the leasing program under US law, and only Congress can do that. Now, the leasing prohibitions imposed by the former President Barack Obama will remain in full force and effect until it's revoked by Congress, according to the judge. This next piece will come as no surprise. The rogue elements of Indonesia. And why it's so much of that region is important to a lot of the alt media also. Billions of dollars from a state fund, which was meant to help the Malaysian people, went missing, disappearing into the shadows of the global financial system. Well, not quite. And according to American and Malaysian prosecutors, the money lined the pockets of a few powerful individuals and was used to buy luxury real estate, a private jet, Van Gogh and Monet artworks, and to finance a Hollywood blockbuster. The outcry of the alleged looting of 1MDB has kind of ran around the world, and with authorities in at least 6 countries probing a vast web of financial transactions stretching from Swiss banks, no surprise, hello Rothschilds, to island tax havens at the heart of Southeast Asia. And the scandal even led to the toppling of the political party that governed Malaysia for all of its history as an independent nation. Goldman Sachs, one of Wall Street's most powerful banks, is facing criminal charges in Malaysia. Oops. Which it says it intends to vigorously defend. Yeah, right. Meanwhile, a fugitive playboy charged in the US and Malaysia remains on the run. His infamous $250 million luxury super yacht is now being taken over and is in the hands of the authorities. And all eyes are now on the Malaysian capital, Kuala Lumpur, where former Prime Minister and ex-chairman of 1MDB's advisory board, Najib Razak, is going on trial in the first of several cases against him. And the cast of characters around 1MDB scandal paints a picture of a truly global saga. This story is one to watch. It's going to pull out a lot of names. Now, from the journalists who doggedly followed the money to the international elite alleged to have profited, Najib Razak, who is a golfing buddy of Obama, no surprise there. Of course, Obama went there with the Clintons, and also Langley too, remember, and of course Mr. Keenan's there. But there were clouds above him from the very beginning of his premiership. Questions over a French submarine deal made in 2002, when his defence minister had dogged the new PM, and it was alleged that some $130 million in kickbacks had been paid as part of the $1.2 billion deal. This is why they really want to get these arms deals and nuclear power deals and all the other large profile transactional deals, is because there's kickbacks for the people involved. He was also charged with the grisly murder of a Mongolian model who served as an interpreter for the submarine deal, which raised further questions and got ignored. And a French investigation continues while the new Malaysian government recently reopened its probe. Mr. Razak insists he never met the woman. Now, this scandal also involves several other high-profile people, including actors and people in the actress world, Leonardo DiCaprio being the most prominent. That's going to cause ructions over there. And it will have implications here. Obama, Muslim Brotherhood, Langley 2 and 3. Venezuela's Supreme Court has asked for opposition leader Juan Guaido to be stripped of his parliamentary immunity in a move that could lead to his jailing. The pro-government Constitution Assembly is expected to back the request. Good move. Mr. Guaido declared himself interim leader back in January, gaining support of more than 50 countries, including the US military. Not US country, the military. But President Nicolas Maduro has major allies too and retains the crucial backing of the military. Amid a power struggle between the two, Venezuela has seen growing street protests over a lack of water and electricity, which this show forecast would happen, and it did. And the authorities have said that they will shorten the working day and keep schools closed due to power cuts. Now, on Monday, the electricity minister, Luis Mota, was replaced with an electrical engineer, and the government has claimed the blackouts are a result of sabotage to force Mr. Maduro from office. Yep. But the generals learned the truth. Most of course, we had the no-deal Brexit again, another distraction piece. That will just roll on and on and on, a bit like Russiagate on steroids. But it appears that most of the UK wants out of the EU, except two regions. London, no surprise, and Scotland, no surprise there either. Scotland is no surprise recently, that is, they didn't even vote for their own independence when they were offered it. Now, some Scots, as I know, have a healthy and sometimes not too healthy dislike of England and English people, and yet voted to stay part of it. It boggles the mind. As for London, most in that region are like Parisians and New Yorkers are money-oriented people with little care for anything or anyone else whatsoever. They think life revolves in the UK around London. Well, the solution is simple for those who want to stay in the EU and get raped by fake Holland country Belgium et al. Let them. Build a taller Hadrian's Wall to Scotland and let them stay in the EU, and build a wall round the M25 and let them stay in the EU, create a separate government and treasury outside of the M25, and let's see how long they last. Simple solution.